F27 had my first baby 6 days ago. My birth went well, but I am still recovering, in quite a bit of pain, and have been very sensitive emotionally since giving birth. My husband, M27, and I told our families that we'd likely have no visitors for the first 1 to 2 weeks, just to set expectations. But privately the two of us decided that we would play it by ear and see how we felt. Our second day home with our baby was really rough on me, and all I wanted was my mom to comfort and help me, so husband and I decided to call my mom and have her come over. She was such a major help, both emotionally and with the baby, so we had her come by every other day since. She went above and beyond to help us. Also, my bestie and her husband live down the street and have been dropping off meals/treats and walking our dog for us, but I don't consider that visiting as much as favors/errands. Mother-in-law found out about my mom's visits and was very upset, so we decided to have her over for a brief visit, day 6 postpartum. She said they'd bring food and arrived around dinner time. I have celiac disease, though I cannot eat gluten. Mother-in-law brought homemade lasagna, pasta salad, muffins, and 2 types of cookies, all full gluten, and explained to me that she was sorry but she had limited notice and only had time to make my husband's favorites. I immediately started crying, and my husband thanked his mom but took me to the other room and told me he'd take care of it and ordered us delivery on the spot. I composed myself, introduced mother-in-law, father-in-law to baby, and then mother-in-law made another comment about how she wished she could have brought food for me, but it was just so time-consuming and burdensome to make things gluten-free. I snapped and told her she was rude and told her I was angry. Toward the end of the visit, my BFF's husband knocked on the door to come walk our dog and to my surprise brought us a homemade gluten-free tiramisu. I started crying, again, and thanked him profusely, and he told us it was no problem and surprisingly easy to make. Mother-in-law was pissed because she realized that they'd been coming by and started complaining about how wrong this all was, because she had to wait 6 days to see the baby and was faced with my anger. My husband took my baby from her and father-in-law snapped at her to drop it. They stayed and chatted for a short while, and when Bestie's husband came back to drop our dog off, I sent him home with one of the batches of cookies mother-in-law brought, which upset mother-in-law. Mother-in-law has been texting/calling and trying to rally people against me since. My husband has my back and even went the next day to drop off almost all the rest of the gluten food to our friends, and he told me to block mother-in-law's number if she kept harassing me. I don't really feel like I was the a-hole, but I'm also extremely emotional and sensitive to everything right now, and I'm not sure I'm reacting to things in general reasonably at this time. Most of my in-laws are mad at me. Comment 1, NTA. She is upset all these people are getting to help you, but didn't in fact help you when given the opportunity. If she had time to make a lasagna, she had time to make literally anything else, cause that shit is time consuming. She made muffins and cookies too, but couldn't throw together a salad, some roasted veggies, some baked chicken. Nah, she did the classic evil mill move of taking care of her baby, your husband, and likely doing it to teach you a lesson. It just didn't work because your husband has your back, and you also stood up for yourself. Comment 2. NTA. My mom's got a gluten allergy, not celiac, but just a straight-up gluten allergy. I've got experience making gluten-free stuff to the point where I keep gluten-free stuff in the house for when my mom's going to be visiting, which is often. Gluten-free flour for when we're going to be making cookies and stuff, as well as beef stew or anything that requires a roux. There's gluten-free pancake and waffle mix in the house, as well as gluten-free pastas. It's not that hard. Willing to bet that your husband willingly eats gluten-free stuff so you don't have to make 2 batches of stuff. It wouldn't have been that hard to make your husband's favorites gluten-free. There's gluten-free lasagna noodles out there. Comment 3. NTA. I think it's plainly obvious that the food choice was purposeful and meant to hurt you, in response for her feeling hurt. Hubby needs to set her down and explain that choices that were made for your comfort and well-being and not for anybody's feelings to get hurt. If he can't get her to understand that, you are going to have years of problems on your hands. I, 29F, Had my first baby 3 months ago. From literally the time my baby was born, my SO parents were non-stop visiting. I was in the hospital 48 hours due to C-section and had his divorced parents and their SO visit multiple times each. My issue begin here with his father's SO, we'll call her Jane. For context, Jane made no effort to reach out during the entire pregnancy and only ever texted me once the morning of the scheduled C-section. Immediately upon entering the hospital room, Jane runs over to the bassinet and grabs my few-hour-old baby from it without asking or even washing her hands. I was beyond exhausted and out of it that at the time I didn't say anything, which I regret. Fast forward the next 6 weeks, they constantly wanted to visit. When they did visit, they wanted to sit there, hold my baby and take photos. Jane would show up with gifts for the baby and my SO and nothing for me. And never once offering to help with anything or bring by coffee or food, nothing. I log on FB one morning after they had visited and Jane had posted photos of my baby blabbering on about how Nana loves her, and proceeds to give an inaccurate birth date in the comments. I tell my partner that this bothered me as she did not ask permission to post photos of our baby online and I would like them removed. Jane makes a huge stink over the matter, saying she's being targeted and everyone else can post but her. I explain my stance and somehow it blew up into her feeling like she only has the title of a grandparent but can't do the duties of one. Because I wouldn't let her change my baby's diaper. His father doesn't seem to get where I'm coming from either, but my SO told him that Jane needs to apologize and understand that there's boundaries that need to be respected. It has now been well over a month and the holidays have come and gone. Haven't heard a peep from them since. Until this week. She passed along Christmas gifts to my SO. There were 5 gifts. 1 made out to my SO, 1 to our baby and the other 3 were made out to his sister and her BF. I immediately knew she did this so I would see that she gave everyone a gift except me, as she had seen his sister the weekend before and could have given her the gifts, and I know she has met the sister's BF twice, yet he gets gifts but not the mother of the baby you love too much. I sat on it for a day and thought about it all and decided I have received nothing but disrespect from her from the beginning, and that I was 1. Saying she isn't welcome in our house again, and 2. She isn't welcome to touch/hold our baby. Comment 1. NTA. Yes. From the very first minute of your baby's life, she's been unnecessary and inappropriate, holding your daughter without washing her hands, disgusting. She's also made it clear that she's going to get worse the more time elapses and the more allowance you give her. As they say with entitled people, you give an inch, they take a mile. Cut her off. The more she complains, the more valid you were in doing so. There are plenty of stories here you can find in which the child was submissive and it ended up causing a world of pain. Just check up the Just No Mill subreddit for a million examples. Comment 2. NTA. You are the parent and you decide who you want and don't want around your child. Now my issue is with your man, who I have not heard you once say stood up for you during this exclusion and mistreatment. I do wonder if the both of you were ever close before the pregnancy. No one should be unsanitary around a baby, taking and posting photos without permission, and purposefully getting everyone gifts and excluding the mother. I would have had an issue with my man if I were you, because hell no. Now I don't think giving rules really works in this situation because your partner never caught on and stood up for you. I would also be petty and give her that same energy back. In this circumstance, my partner would be told that not only has your stepmom disrespected me in my presence multiple times through exclusion and boundary breaking, but you have followed suit by not catching on and standing up for me. Reiterate all of the examples listed in this post and ask him how he'd feel if your family treated him the way Jane treats you. For now, baby, and you need a break from her, and you shouldn't be scared to cut her off and go full no contact. My sister, 14F, and I, 16F, are not close. She has really bad social skills. She does not have any diagnosis like ADHD or autism. But she has never been good with social stuff. She's very intelligent and is a very good problem solver. She lacks the understanding that easy for her is not easy for everyone. She also lacks the social skills to know/realize that complaining about other people's interest, their lack of skills, etc., is not how you make friends or get people to like you. This has been an issue with her since we were in elementary school and maybe even preschool. She'd win at almost every board game and would ask really bluntly why someone was bad, normally me. She'd tell me how easy it was and I should be winning because I'm older. Our parents always bought board games like that which suited her way more. I really hated playing against her because her attitude after winning wasn't fun or easy to be around, and she was like that with others too. One time our aunt played with us, and she's a teacher, and my sister basically asked how she could be a teacher when she couldn't win a game against a 6-year-old. I never liked having to spend time with my sister and I hated playing anything with her even more. She always wanted to spend more time with me but I avoided that shit as much as I possibly could. Eventually she started to sit in on me playing video games and she would try to backseat game or would criticize me for taking so long to finish a puzzle, or she would literally take the controller out of my hand and do the puzzle for me. She was like that when I had friends over too. Then she'd get upset when it was clear we didn't want her around. I tried telling her it was rude to insult people or to interrupt others and to help without being asked and to continue when asked to stop. She would tell me it was boring watching someone struggle and everyone should thank her. There are some things she isn't so good at and boy her reactions are strong. Like tantrum strong. Our parents banned charades because my sister could not play that to save her life and would get so mad. She's had friends but all of them eventually drop her once they grow tired of her complaining about stuff they like, makeup, music, movies, sports, and indirectly calling them dumb. She's really lonely now because I never hang out with her, she has no friends and even our cousins don't want to know her. My parents have been on my case about hanging out with my friends and not including my sister and how I don't ever make time for her anymore. They said I could and should be helping her way more. The other day I told them it was their job to help her, not mine. They said we're sisters and yet I act like I don't like her. The truth is I don't. I don't know if I ever liked her really. But I really don't like her now and I hate every second I spend with her. I didn't tell my parents this but saying it was their job to help my sister and not mine really pee them off. Comment 1. NTA Even if your sister didn't have this horrible attitude all the time, you're not obligated to include her when hanging out with your friends. This is an issue your parents have created by not addressing her rude behavior properly when she was younger. Now she's in her teens, I think it will be really difficult to correct. You mentioned she doesn't have a diagnosis of ADHD or ASD, but not having a diagnosis doesn't mean she couldn't have one of those things, although it wouldn't be an excuse for her behavior, just an explanation. Do you know if your parents ever got her assessed? Especially with young women, they are harder to diagnose and often don't get their diagnosis later in life. Comment 2. She needs therapy. This is classic autistic behavior and she needs a specialist to help her understand. I could never understand why people did badly in exams, as they were easy until my mum explained not everyone has a photographic memory. I come from a family riddled with neurodivergence and as a result we help the children from an early age to understand the limitations of their condition. Your parents are doing her no favors by coddling her. I would let her lose at charades. It's a good way to help her understand how she makes others feel as she lacks the empathy to understand it intuitively. Trust me, as someone who once was that child, your parents are doing her no favors. Comment 3. NTA. You're 16, you should be navigating teenage life as is, without any responsibilities that your parents should be taking care of. So I am 27F. Living in a house share in a reasonably priced city in England. I moved here during the pandemic for what was meant to be a temporary move, but I liked it more than I expected, so I stayed once things went back to normal. I lived and worked in London before. I live in a 3-bed house, where I have my own bathroom and office. I share with 2 other women my age. I pay more rent because I occupy more space. The girls I live with are nice. We're not besties, but we watch TV together and occasionally hang out outside the house. a pretty sweet arrangement where I'm concerned. Recently, one of my housemates accidentally opened a letter from my employer which detailed a new pay rise and bonus I was getting. I believe it was an accident because it was in a regular white envelope and at a glance our names look similar enough for this to happen. She says it wasn't until she was glancing over it that she realized it wasn't hers, that part I have a difficult time reading. The problem is she knows how much I earn. It's a lot by London standards, which is where my job's based, so it's a lot by Northern standards, which is where I live. She started off acting strangely, then passive, and it's escalated to hostile. It came to a head when I sent a payment reminder for the money she owes me for a shared takeaway on Monzo. She sent a voice note on the WhatsApp group calling me a greedy southern cow, who was penny pinching when I can more than afford to let this go and let her get the next one. The thing is, we've never done that, there's no precedent for it, and I don't see why we should start under these circumstances. The third roommate started off silent, but I guess they spoke behind my back because they called a flat meeting and said that I'm basically minted to it's cheeky to ask the roommate to pay me back my £20 when I can afford to let it go. It escalated to me being called a Tory, accused of mocking them by pretending to be like them and living in a house share when I can afford to live alone. They said given the state of the economy, it's only fair I pay more because I can pay more. I told them no. I said it's not my fault they chose low-paying careers, teaching and nursing, and pointed out I'm already paying significantly more rent than everyone and our house isn't exactly cheap to begin with. I refuse to let them punish me because I'm doing well in life and they're not. I feel I've now isolated them, but I really don't think I'm in the wrong. Happy to correct it if I am though. Comment 1. NTA, but I would consider moving out. Your housemates are jealous and entitled. I had a housemate who started stealing from me for much less, when I mentioned in passing that I had got into university on a scholarship. It didn't mean I didn't have loans, just a bursary. Also, I've had housemates like you, I've never felt entitled to their money. I have had generous friends pay for things so we can hang out and do the fun stuff they wanted to do when I couldn't afford it, but I would still pay my own way where possible and pay them back when I owed them money. Actually, flat rule. If someone owes you money and doesn't think they should pay you back, they don't respect you. The friendship should be over immediately. Comment 2. NTA. If by house share you just mean living in a house with roommates, I'm confused about what the issue is. People live below their means all of the time. It doesn't make you selfish or inconsiderate. They found out you have money and they're trying to use that to make their lives easier.